So one of the worst things that could possibly happen was I just dropped all of my notes that I had prepared for this video. So let's just wing it. Hi, my name is Scott. Welcome to the Our Growth Rings channel. The purpose of this channel is to encourage you to get started in your own YouTube adventure. I've been putting out videos on a couple channels for over 15 years now. And I do it for a couple reasons, and maybe these reasons appeal to you as well. The first one, I mean, as we're getting closer to retirement, maybe even in retirement, it might be nice to have an ear to listen to some of the things that we have to share. Whether it's storytelling, whether it's sharing a skill or a craft that you're involved in, getting somebody else excited about a passion that you have is just a lot of fun. One of my passions is woodworking, and specifically with the tools you see behind me here. And I have now 9 grandchildren and quite a number of these tools. And so the idea of being able to be there to teach my grandkids how to use these tools someday, whether I am here on this planet or not, I think is a pretty exciting thing that we can do with the documentations we can leave behind with YouTube. Another thing that I think is pretty exciting is there's a potential for earning some additional income. Now, you hear about the Mr. Beasts out there, the folks that make millions of dollars. That's quite unlikely for most of us. But if you're looking to just make a little extra money, it's a really great way to build your income. My woodworking channel generates about $1,500 a month now, and that's just playing around with it part-time. Once I retire, my plan is to lean a bit harder into that, and it could be a substantial part of our income. And I think that's pretty slick too. So let's talk about, we're gonna have maybe 20 video topics to start. I actually have 20 video topics written down, but we'll see where that takes us, because I really want to have the content of this channel steered by you. If you have a question or a comment or a cheap shot about something that is shared or something that you're struggling with on YouTube, I want you to leave the comment and we'll add that to a future video. I really want to see you succeed in your YouTube venture. So let's talk about some of the things that you're going to face that are possibly going to hold you back. The first one is procrastination and second guessing. All of us lack the self-confidence when we see that little red light light up either on our phones or on a camera, and we all get imposter syndrome. Just know that it is true of every one of us that our first videos are not going to be great, but the great news is they're just our first videos. And I would encourage you to go ahead and get those out of the way. No one else even needs to see them. You can record several videos and just either, well, you know what I would suggest you do? Go ahead and upload those to YouTube, but leave them private. That way you can, along your YouTube journey, you can check back and see how are you improving. And I will give you a challenge in a future video of how much I think you can improve. So what are some tips for just getting started? Well, the first one is just to say, do it. You don't need fancy equipment. I am right now filming on an iPhone. I have been filming exclusively on iPhones for well over 15 years. Actually, one of my old channels, probably now 20 years ago, I was uploading videos and having to pull off little micro SD cards. And I remember even doing a video on the things you need to watch out on those micro USB cards to make sure that they are the correct class so that they'll upload in the proper resolution. That goes back quite a ways. Anyway, we have got such powerful video equipment right on our phones. If you had a Sony Handycam 20 years ago, the camera on your phone is better than that camera was. So we already have that tool out of the way. Audio, you could rely just on the audio from your phone. You could put in some earbuds or AirPods. I've recorded well over 100 videos on my woodworking channel before I bought this microphone. And in some ways, the sound quality was even better. but people did comment about the white earrings that were dangling from my ears, and so I had to finally do something about that. But that wasn't for the sake of the audio. Another thing you're going to want to do is to post consistently, whatever that means. If that means every day, if that means once a week, if that means every other week, your subscribers and your viewers are going to kind of get into the habit of watching you whenever your videos come out. Remember when we all used to watch our favorite TV show and you could check the TV guide, and Thursday night we're going to be able to catch Seinfeld and Friends and all those shows. If you're a woodworker, that was also the night that Tim Allen was on with Home Improvement. So, setting a schedule for yourself to put out a video on the regular is good encouragement for you, and it's great for your audience because they'll know when to expect new content. Now, you can batch record. I'm going to record a couple of videos here tonight that I'll release over time, and there's no reason why we can't do that. Now, if you want to, hold out a little bit of mystery, you can change shirts between videos, but I'm not going to, and I think it'll be okay. How about your surroundings? I happen to be in my shop only because I tried filming in our dining room and it just came out horribly. We don't really have a studio in our house like most people don't have studios. And so find a spot that you're comfortable in, maybe a spot that relates to the topic that you're going to be discussing. You're going to be in your sewing room, maybe you're going to be in your kitchen, maybe you're going to be in your shop with the hood up. Any one of those places is perfectly fine. Really, the quality of the audio and next, the quality of the light is going to be far more important than whatever happens to be in the background. But don't fool yourself. People are being distracted by the things that are back here on the shelf. I do it too. I'll watch somebody's YouTube channel and I'll be zooming in to see what's back on the workbench. So maybe you want to clean up a little bit before you start recording. We'll get into some detail in a future video on things such as the thumbnail of the video. That's the picture that your audience is going to see as they're doom scrolling through their subscriptions or through the YouTube homepage. You do want to have a video that stands out. Thank goodness we all don't have to look like the idiots that are acting surprised. The YouTube face. I think most of us who are at this stage in our life, and I'm assuming that you're mature, we're not going to be attracted by a whole lot of that nonsense. And so thank goodness you don't have to resort to a lot of theatrics. That said, you do have to sound more excited than you probably think you need to. And that's because the camera, for some reason, mutes enthusiasm. The videos that I shot last night that didn't turn out, as I reviewed them, I thought, my gosh, I look like I'm half asleep. There's no enthusiasm at all in my voice. And while I was talking to the camera, I thought I was enthusiastic. So we do have to be a little bit more over the top than we are in person. If you run into me somewhere, I don't sound exactly like this in real life. And then here's a little mindset part of this, and that is YouTube is not a sprint. YouTube is a journey. It's going to take you quite a number of videos before your audience gets found and before your voice is found, before you get comfortable talking to the camera, before you begin to even learn where to look at the dang camera. I have my phone with the screen facing me, which is really not the best camera. The camera on the other side of the phone is a higher quality camera, but I wanted to make sure that I stage things properly. And as a result, that affects the resolution that it can be watched on somebody's 4K television. So, this is something that over time I'm going to get better at, you're going to get better at, but you don't need to put all that pressure on yourself right up front. We're not going to have to focus on being perfect today, and in fact, if each video we can improve just 1%, we're going to be better, far better than you can imagine in a very, very short time. I remember writing some blog posts on a couple of the blogs that I was writing probably, again, 20 years ago, and looking back on one of them one day and realizing how many posts I had written. There was one that I was doing for my work that was supposed to be a shared responsibility between me and several other people. And when I took a look at the stockpile or the library of posts, it turned out there were 83 of the 85 posts were written by me. I was shocked that I was the only one doing it, but even more shocked by how quickly that database of knowledge had grown. And you're going to find the same thing as you begin recording your videos. And another really interesting thing is nobody is going to mind whatsoever if 6 months down the road you take another stab at that topic that you don't think you did quite so well at. In fact, there will be a day where I'll probably make this video hidden and I'll do a replacement for this as an introductory video because I'm sure I can do this better if I just get another shot at it. You might be able to tell already I don't write a script. I'm dyslexic, and so I would have trouble reading a script if I had a script, and I'm certainly not going to try to memorize a script. But I do make some bullet points for myself, and in my case, I attach them just below my camera with a magnet on my tripod. If I wanted to, I could begin recording, pause, check my notes, and come back and just edit that pause out. Editing is very simple, and we'll talk about that in a future video. I'm gonna edit that out, see? That said, it doesn't hurt to write a script. Scripting your thoughts and making sure that you've hit all the points you want to meet is not a bad idea, not a bad starting point. Begin with that and then create bullet points that you can then prompt yourself to remember while you're recording. Speaking of editing, challenge yourself to learn a new editing trick each time you edit a video. You can learn a lot about editing on YouTube. Just whatever software you're going to use, you can edit right on your phone. I know for sure that Apple has iMovie, and I'm sure that the Android phones have their own native video editing software. Just go to YouTube and search how to use iMovie, for example. You do want to make sure that you say iMovie on an iPhone or iMovie on an iPad or whatever device you're using, because it is a slightly different experience if you're using a MacBook laptop than if you're doing that editing on a phone. Now, I mentioned earlier the thumbnail. The thumbnail is the photograph that's going to represent your video. And while we don't want to be silly, we do want to stop people in their tracks. As they're scrolling, we want them to see a thumbnail and pause. Now, it does us no good to take all the time to make the best, most well-scripted video we can think of, only to have someone not click on it. And so having a good thumbnail, and then also thinking about a good title for the video. There are some YouTubers that actually spend more time coming up with ideas for the thumbnail and for their title than they do in recording and editing the video. There are YouTubers that have teams of people that just dream up thumbnails and titles. That should give us an idea of how important that is. So yeah, you can just take some random moment within your video. Maybe it's a point where something interesting is happening, or better yet, you got a smile on your face like that. See, there's a thumbnail picture right there. You could put some words on the screen, but keep that minimal. And we'll go into more details as we talk specifically about creating thumbnails. You can let YouTube select a still from your video. They'll come up with about 3 stills, and you can select from those 3. What I'll sometimes do is I'll wait until they select them, and then I'll go and grab that still shot from my editing software. I can get a higher resolution version of that picture, and then I can go and I can add some text onto the screen that reinforces the topic that I'm discussing. Look, most important thing to know here is there's no need for us to try to fix everything right out the gate, all right? These are things that we're gonna get better with each and every time we shoot a video. So don't put a ton of pressure on yourself. Just start filming. So here's the exciting part. There's going to be a tipping point. For you and your channel, it may be 10 videos, it may be 20 videos, it might take 100 videos. But there is going to be a point where you're going to find your audience and things are just going to click. And let me tell you, that is an exciting time. We'll get into talking about YouTube's role in all this in a future video, but let me just tell you, When that finally happens and the audience begins connecting with you, you're going to create a community and a group of friends like you've never had before. And I look forward to you sharing that experience with us when that happens for you. So if you're starting your channel today, I encourage you just to get going with it and don't worry about being perfect. See, even I mispronounced that. Don't worry about being perfect. I'm not editing that out just for you. Just get incrementally better, and you'll find in no time you'll be much more natural at doing this than you are today. So you may have wondered about the name of this channel, which is Our Growth Rings, and wondered what's the deal with that. Well, okay, I'm a woodworker, and the thing about trees is when trees grow, they grow layer upon layer each year, and you can see from the end of a board the growth rings of that tree. Every year there are a couple rings that represent the life of that tree. And I think just like that, the story of our lives are being written over time. And one of the old sayings is the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. So start now and let your growth rings tell your story. I'm looking forward to hearing all about it. And for now, make it a great day.